Good evening, this is Kev, here to drive you crazy, and welcome to this edition of Drive-In Reviews. So, this is going to be the first review on the Netflix series Squid Games. A very popular series right now that is on Netflix. A lot of people are very much interested in it. It is blowing up in the Philippines and pretty much anywhere else by this point in time. But I wanted to give my personal view on it because me and my wife had watched all 9 episodes just yesterday. So this is going to be a Mullet review, so give my personal review without any kind of spoilers to start off, and then at the end of this video is going to be more about the actual spoilers itself. So I'll let you know when the cutoff point of that is, but let's just jump straight into this. And so unfortunately I am very bad with names, so I'm going to just claim it as this. You have the main protagonist, you have the main girl, you have the college graduate, you have the one gangster, the annoying girl, and then a lot of the other people who become more progressive, like the Pakistani and the other lost girl, as I would call her. And each person is in a great deal of money loss or debt, or they are just people who've been asking to borrow a lot of money or needed money for certain particular reasons. You see the main protagonist go through his first set of life to see why he is in such financial debt, until he meets up with somebody who actually tells you that you have an opportunity to earn much more than just the debt that you owe, but an additional amount to continue on with your life without ever having to worry about being in such a debt ever again. It goes on to show all these other characters, and the one big thing about it is that, you know, every single person that goes there was given a card that they have to call, confirm who they are before they can go into these games. So it comes down to where there's about 456 contestants that join up into this game, and each one of them has to play out these games until you unfortunately get eliminated. And of course, eliminations meaning that you get killed off. With that, each person starts having to realize what is the value of your life. Having to go back to a life where you are still in financial debt, people are probably trying to chase you down to get money, or you are able to provide for the reasons why you're trying to earn your keepings and all that, or is your life really understandably worth going through the, you know, agony of having to try and see hundreds of other people die just so that way you can be the one to win this ultimate prize. So with that all being said, we'll say I really enjoyed this TV series. 9 episodes, each episode being about an hour long, so it does, you know, take a little bit of time. But like I said, me and my wife, we started from like the very beginning of the day, and we were all the way through until like the end of the day to say we watched every single episode, went through it all, and we just could not stop watching it because it progressively gets you more and more interested per episode. I will give this 8 out of 10 because the storyline is somewhat predictable. There are points where you could say, oh, I see this and this and this happening for the reasons why, just because from the dialogue or just how you see how the characters are developing and all that, but it does still have great storylines. It still gets you very much into saying, why you would see that you would want the main protagonist to win, but then you see all these other characters and how they have their backstories and the reasons why they need to have their money, and you ultimately just say you want to be able to say every single person there should have a fair chance. But ultimately, I still say the biggest fallout for me has to be the last episode. It was a very weird way for the episode to end. It makes you kind of, understand things in a very different perspective of how it actually unfolded. It gives a lot of explanations to things, but at the exact same time, it makes you just go, dang, we could have prevented a lot of this. But I still agree that this is a very great show. I enjoyed it a lot, and looking forward to the season 2 whenever it comes out. So with that being said, this is the Mullet side of it. From this point forth will be spoilers. So ultimately, the main protagonist ends up winning the money. The Squid Game is explained to you in the very first episode what the actual game is, as it is a Korean-based kids game. And that kids game is what ultimately becomes the last game. But each game falls through with it being like a red light, green light, tug of war, marbles, little things like that, where you have a lot of things that are just, kids games, but you get eliminated and killed if you end up losing the game. Each person that enters into this game, 456 of them, all have a bounty of 100 million won, which is the Korean currency. So with the last winner and being 456 contestants, that's 45.6 billion won. That is a great, significant amount of money. So with that, you still see why a lot of the people are trying to earn it, but is it, once again, like where they were allowed to go and leave because they didn't want to continue on with the games. They went back to their lives realizing how bad it was, to realize, you know what, is it worth dying out here knowing that I'm not going to have a chance, or dying there where I could end up possibly winning it all anyway. So, you see the characters for who they were, from being someone who may be bad that ends up being good, the people who you think is good that ends up becoming betrayers, the people that you like their story arc so you hope that they would succeed and end up being screwed over. And again, with the main, as they say, the number one, the old man, being like the main mastermind behind all of it, really showing that he knew how to play the game. He always was trying to, confuse people, get them to do things completely different. And again, I was very predictable by a certain point, but it's just the way that the story gets presented is what gets you so involved into it. A lot of people were trying to compare this to the Hunger Games, and that one I will say is a somewhat false statement. Hunger Games was like every single section had to be a volunteer to whoever can be a final winner, survive by yourself until that game was done. This one, they got beds, they got fed by the people. There was a lot of stuff that was happening on the backside of it, which was like selling off, body parts to the Chinese in the black market to earn extra money on the side, and you get to see how that kind of confliction unfolds itself as well. But it was one of those that I will say, like, the ultimate thing was when it came down to the last game, where you're just saying between the two, the main protagonist and the college graduate, having both of them fight it out at the very end at that Squid Game that got explained in the very first episode, was one of those things that you just go, I can see. But then to see that when someone receives the 45.6 billion won reward, you realize that he ends up not choosing to spend any of it because was knowing that the people he cared about, the people that he trusted, the people that he called his own friends, was worth killing to earn this kind of money. I mean, there's a lot of little plot hole kind of stuff, which I think gets, kind of push it aside. Like all that money that the guy had owed for what he had to be paid off was never really discussed or talked about. The money that he ends up actually giving away that you do see is the obvious stuff, like for the girl's brother to get out of the shelter, to the college graduate's mom's business being completely paid off and taken care of again. But one of the biggest things that was mentioned about it was saying, none of the money has really been taken out of the account. You see, like, when he first gets his credit card that allows him to withdraw his first amount, and then you see that he has that entire amount available to himself. Then you go, okay, well, it's true that he has the money, but it says that it wasn't really ever, like, spent. So that's why I'm like, did the debt ever get paid off? Because that was still something that was worth sitting, or is it just because that significant amount of money that was meant for his debt to get paid off was so insignificant to the total of the 45 billion that he has that was not even worth really bringing up or mentioning? Because you see that the following thing is like a year later, after the aftermath of him being at the Squid Games and becoming what he was, transforming himself, knowing that he was trying to go and do everything correct for himself now, try to better himself, know that he did get to meet up with the old man at the very end in the room, and made that other bet to say, who is that other guy who's down in the snow going to get help, and he gets help with 5 seconds left before his timer had expired, all that kind of stuff. Got his very weird red haircut. Me and my wife were just like, no. It's a Korean thing, I guess, but just no. And then ultimately he meets up with the person that, or not meets up, but sees the person that gave him that opportunity to another person, tries to chase him down, was trying to catch a plane flight to go back to his daughter who is in the USA, and chooses to just abandon all of that and try to pursue and figuring out where these people are, why are they still trying to do these games, and that's ultimately what sets it up for the season 2. So again, it is very interesting. It's very weird. I still like it. I would still recommend it. There's going to be points where people will agree and disagree to the show, but as I said, I like it a lot. I very much enjoyed it. I got very hooked into it. Me and my wife, like I said, we were up to like 11:30 at night last night just to make sure that we could finish off all the episodes. And I highly recommend it to you guys. I really can't wait to see what the second season has to offer. And obviously with all the little stuff that will continue on, it is a very mature sense, a lot of death, a lot of suicide, some sexual visuals, but ultimately something I would recommend for everyone to watch. But thank you once again for being able to stick through to the end of this video. Please leave a like if you had to give me any kind of feedback as well in the comments on my review, and of course share anything that you want to, and of course I got my subscribe button that pops up right here for any other content from me. My name is Cab, and I'm here to drive you crazy. Aloha, God bless, take care.